The morning sun illuminated the busy city of New York, reflecting off the glass of tall buildings and creating a play of light and shadow on the sidewalks. Emma Carter, a successful lawyer with a serious and determined countenance, walked quickly towards the office, her gaze fixed ahead, as if each step took her further away from a painful past. Her mind was on an important case, a big trial that demanded her full attention, but even so, the weight of her late husband's memory still followed her, like a constant shadow. While crossing one of the many busy streets, Emma noticed a street vendor, a plain-looking man with disheveled hair and a shy smile. He was surrounded by a small crowd who admired his arts and assorted products. However, it was one specific detail that made her heart skip a beat. On the salesman's wrist, a wristwatch with an elegant dial and worn leather that Emma recognized immediately. It was her husband's watch. Emma Carter advanced towards the street vendor, her heart racing, her mind full of questions that seemed to echo in her head. The surrounding environment, with the noise of cars and the murmur of people, seemed to fade away as she approached Alex. The morning sun reflected off the windows of the buildings, but to Emma, everything was a shadow. The watch that hung on Alex's wrist was a ghost from the past, a symbol of everything she had lost. Do you know where that watch comes from? Emma asked, her voice cracking with emotion. Alex, a worn-looking man with piercing eyes, looked at her in surprise. He hesitated before responding. "It's just a watch, ma'am," Alex said, his voice calm but distant. He tried to look away, as if to avoid the intensity of her gaze. However, Emma wasn't willing to let the conversation die there. "Don't lie to me. That watch belonged to my husband. He disappeared 20 years ago." Frustration brimmed in his words, and she felt a sense of despair overcome her. Alex, for a moment, seemed to lose his composure, his features hardening. "I don't know how he got to me," he replied at last, "but I know things about him." His voice shook slightly, and Emma noticed there was something more behind his words. "Things? What kind of things?" Emma came closer, her gaze fixed on Alex, as if waiting for him to reveal some hidden secret. "Things you don't want to hear," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Emma's gaze narrowed. Frustration and pain drove her to continue. "You have no idea what I want or don't want to hear. My husband is gone, and I spent 2 decades not understanding what really happened. And now you show up with this memory of him?" The anger and pain were palpable in his words, and Alex seemed to absorb each and every one of them. "He wasn't just your husband, Emma. He was my friend," Alex said, voice firmer now. "There were many things he never told you, things he took to his grave." Emma felt as if the ground beneath her feet was crumbling. "Friend? What friend were you then? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Disbelief mixed with the desire to understand. Alex, however, didn't respond immediately, as if he was evaluating his words. "Because I didn't know how. Because I didn't want you to suffer anymore," he finally admitted, his gaze steady but full of sadness. "I don't want you to protect me. I deserve to know the truth." Emma exclaimed, her voice now almost a scream, drawing curious glances from passers-by. Alex seemed to hesitate, as if the internal struggle between revealing and hiding what he knew was about to explode. "You don't understand, Emma," he said, his expression softening. "The watch is not just an object. It's a symbol of a promise we made. A promise that changed our lives." "A promise? What kind of promise?" Emma asked, curiosity almost overcoming her anger. She was so close to understanding, but frustration kept her from seeing the truth clearly. "A promise to protect each other," Alex replied, his voice lower, as if the weight of the words were too heavy to say out loud. "And your husband, he got into something that could have changed everything. I just couldn't save him." Emma felt a lump form in her throat, the pain of loss mixed with confusion. "Save him? From what? What do you know that I don't know?" Alex glanced at the watch on his wrist, as if searching for courage in the gears and hands that once belonged to a man he respected. "You need to understand that not everything is as it seems, Emma. And what happened to him, it might not have been an accident." The words hung between them, heavy and loaded with meaning. Emma felt lost, as if she were on the edge of an abyss, about to plunge into an unknown world. The truth was there, knocking on her door, but she didn't know if she was ready to open, so she went to work. Emma Carter sat at her desk, her gaze lost on the computer screen, where documents and processes were piling up. She was supposed to be reviewing a complex contract, but her mind was far away, stuck on the image of Alex and the watch that had belonged to her late husband. The inert object had stirred up a storm of emotions that Emma was desperately trying to control. The watch's silver glow seemed to reflect not only time, but also the buried secrets of a past she thought she had overcome. Determined to understand the connection between Alex and her husband, Emma decided to visit her longtime friend, Sarah, who has always had a close eye on relationships around her. Sarah was the only one who could help her unravel the mysteries that tormented her. Upon arriving at Sarah's house, Emma was greeted with a warm hug, but at the same time, she noticed a shadow of concern on her friend's face. "You look pale, Emma. What happened?" asked Sarah, leading her to the living room. "I found someone who knew David," Emma replied, hesitantly. "A street vendor named Alex. He wore a watch that belonged to David." Sarah frowned in surprise. "This is weird. What did he say?" "He refused to answer my questions. But he knew things about David that I didn't expect." Emma launched into an account of the encounter, each word heavy with the pain of memory. "This is very disturbing," Sarah said, resting her head in her hands. "You need to know more about him. What else do you know about this Alex?" Emma hesitated, remembering Alex's intense gaze. "He said the watch symbolizes a promise. A promise that could change everything." Sarah watched Emma with a mix of empathy and curiosity. "Do you know that David had friends we don't know well? Some of them were very close, but he never talked about them." "Like this?" Emma asked, her mind buzzing with new possibilities. "There was a group of people with whom he was involved in a project, something secret. I don't know many details, but I remember overhearing some conversations. David never wanted you to worry about that." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Are you saying there was a secret? Something he hid from me?" "It's possible," replied Sarah, her gaze distant. "Sometimes people hide their lives for reasons we don't understand. And David, well, he was a very proud man. What if Alex has any information about this?" Emma said, determination rising within her. "I need to talk to him again." "Careful, Emma. You are dealing with something very delicate," Sarah warned her, but Emma had already made up her mind. The conversation made her uneasy. Emma knew that to understand her husband's true story, she would need to confront Alex again. As soon as she left Sarah's house, a new determination came over her. The city, which previously seemed like just a tangle of streets and buildings, now turned into a labyrinth of secrets and memories. In the dim light of her living room, Emma Carter watched the dancing shadows cast by the soft light of the lamp. The watch Alex wore still pulsed in her mind, like an echo of a past she thought she had buried. As the rain drummed against the window, Emma found herself immersed in memories that seemed more vivid than ever. She got up and walked to the bookshelf full of photos. Her fingers skimmed the images, stopping on one that made her hesitate. It was a photo of her husband, smiling with that look that made her feel safe and loved. Beside him, Alex, a young man full of life, was also smiling. The image seemed so distant, but at the same time, so close. What were they doing that day? A party? A birthday? Emma didn't remember, but a feeling of discomfort began to form in her chest. The memory of Alex, now the street vendor, disturbed her. He wasn't just a stranger. He was a part of her husband's story that she never knew. Why did he have the watch? What else does he know that I don't? Emma murmured to herself, her voice sounding like a lament in the solitude of the house. Determined to understand more, Emma remembered a letter her husband had written to her years ago, before his death. It was a letter she had tucked away in a forgotten corner of her memory. On impulse, she went to the office drawer and started looking. Among old papers and bills, he found the yellowed envelope, carefully sealed. He sat down again, his heart racing as he opened the letter. The handwritten words transported her to a time when everything seemed simpler. "Emma, if you're reading this, it's because something happened and I can't be there for you anymore. There are things you need to know, but I don't want it to change how you see me." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Those words made her uneasy. What was your husband hiding? The following sentences revealed a story she never knew. Alex was always a loyal friend, but there were secrets between us. Promises we made, things we couldn't share. I don't know if you'll ever understand, but I need you to know that I always loved you above all else. Emma felt a rush of pain and confusion. What could be so serious that your husband doesn't want to share? Deciding to talk to Alex again, Emma remembered the last conversation she had with him. The way he hesitated when answering her questions had left her intrigued. He knows more than he says, she thought, as anger and sadness mixed within her. I need to confront him. That night, Emma decided she couldn't put it off any longer. The city lights illuminated her path as she walked towards the park where she had first met Alex. The air was cold, and the light breeze caressed her face, but anxiety warmed her insides. The smell of rain slowly dissipating as Emma and Alex met in a cafe, the echoes of their earlier conversation still reverberating in their minds. Emma stared at the watch that adorned Alex's wrist, her thoughts revolving around what that object meant. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the walls of the small establishment were listening to every unspoken word. Alex, I need to understand, Emma said, her voice a whisper but filled with determination. Why didn't you tell me the truth sooner? What exactly were you and my husband doing? Alex took a deep breath, his face etched with internal struggle. It was complicated, Emma. I didn't want to involve you in this. The watch? It's not just a symbol. It's a connection between us, an agreement we made. Your husband and I were working on a project, something that could have changed our lives forever. Emma leaned forward, her curiosity and suspicion mixing. What project? And what deal was that? Why was he with you? It was a technology project that could have revolutionized the way we communicate. He was excited, but there were also risks. Risks that I couldn't see until it was too late, Alex explained, eyes filled with regret. He had information that could put him in danger. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying he knew he was in danger? That he was being chased? Yes, Alex replied, his voice shaking slightly. I tried to warn him, but he was so focused. He believed he could control the situation. The revelation hit Emma like a punch in the stomach. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together painfully. You knew this could happen and didn't do anything? Alex, you were there. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't know how, Alex exclaimed, his frustration evident. I was trying to protect her. If I had told you, you would have been in danger too. It was a complicated situation, and I didn't want you to carry that burden. Emma felt tears forming in her eyes, not just from the pain of losing her husband, but from the betrayal and truth that was now unfolding before her. You had no right to decide what I should know. He was my husband, Alex. I deserve to know the truth. I know, Alex murmured, his voice now softer. And I'm here now, ready to help you understand everything. What happened to him wasn't an accident, Emma. He got himself into something he couldn't control, and I couldn't save him. Emma felt boiling anger mixed with deep pain. And all this because you felt guilty for not speaking out sooner? Now you're here, trying to protect me from a truth that's unbearable? Yes, Alex admitted, his expression filled with remorse. But I also wanted you to know how much he cared about you. The watch? He asked me to keep it as a reminder of what really mattered. He wanted you to know he loved you. Alex's words struck Emma with the force of lightning. The emotional connection she was beginning to feel for him now became a battlefield of conflicting emotions. You can't just tell me that and expect everything to be fine. I don't know what to think of you or any of this. I don't expect you to forgive me now, Alex replied, his eyes boring into hers. But I hope you find the truth. You deserve to know who your husband really was and what happened. I just wanted to protect you. Emma looked at him, realizing that despite all the pain and confusion, there was a part of her that wanted to believe Alex. He was the only one who held the key to understanding his past, but the price of that truth seemed unbearable. What if I find out he wasn't who I thought he was? What if everything I knew was a lie? Then you'll have to deal with this, just like I had to deal with my guilt, Alex replied firmly. But you are not alone. I'm here, and I'll help you figure everything out. Emma felt a weight in her heart, but also a spark of hope. The pain of loss was still overwhelming, but perhaps with the truth in hand, she could finally begin to heal.